And as Fogh Rasmussen, the former Secretary General of NATO, packs his prognosis for Donald Trump's 2024 campaign into one loaded word. "I think President Trump will be a loser," he tells me. It is a notoriously triggering term for the former president, evoking deep humiliation. Rasmussen uses it casually. "His baggage is too heavy, too controversial," says Rasmussen, 70, who was Denmark's prime minister for most of this century's first decade. Yet Rasmussen, a right-of-center politician who is now a white shoe international consultant, remains scared of Trump. What disturbs him more immediately than the idea of Trump back in the White House is a far likelier scenario: Trump winning the Republican presidential nomination. It may seem counterintuitive to fear Trump's nomination more than his return to power, a less probable but vastly more dangerous outcome. But Rasmussen's mind is on the war in Ukraine, and what Trump's candidacy might do to sabotage it. The former NATO chief serves as an advisor to the Ukrainian government and recently came to Washington to see members of Congress and Biden administration officials. He is lobbying them to supply more and heavier weapons and to make long-term security guarantees to Ukraine. That's where the Trump angst comes into play. Just by winning the Republican nomination, Trump could shatter the bipartisan front in favor of Ukraine. Rasmussen fears. Trump has been forthright about his views of Russia's invasion, praising Putin as a clever strategist in the early days of the war, and recently suggesting that Ukraine should have ceded Russian-speaking areas in a deal with the invader. Rasmussen says Trump's apparent Ukraine policy would amount to surrender. "I call it a geopolitical catastrophe if Trump were to be nominated, because in the campaign his influence would be destructive," Rasmussen says. "It would move Trump's terrible ideas closer to the mainstream and make it harder to secure congressional support for the war. Already," he notes, "opinion polls show a weakening of the support for Ukraine in the United States. Trump's nomination could accelerate that." Rasmussen argues, the mere fact that his thinking appeals to a certain element, a certain segment of the American public, will push American politics in the wrong direction. "I really hope that Republicans will get their act together," he says. "I do hope, I would say not only from a European perspective but from a global perspective, that Republicans will nominate a candidate that is much more attached to American global leadership than Trump and Trumpists. There are only a few candidates circling the Republican race who fit that description. The most promising may be Mike Pence, the former vice president who has called for aiding Ukraine extensively and denounced apologists for Russia in his own party. Nikki Haley, the former United Nations ambassador, has endorsed giving Ukraine all the weaponry it needs and describes the war as a fight for freedom. Neither is pulling in the double digits right now. Trump's top rival on the right, Gov. Ron DeSantis of Florida, has echoed him on Ukraine, denouncing what he calls Biden's blank check policy of generous aid and saying that the fate of Ukraine's border regions is not an important American concern. This week he described Russia's savage war of aggression as a territorial dispute. That blank check language has become a go-to formulation for Republicans, sometimes including Haley, who want to keep some distance from the war without going full Trump. The catchphrase is about the extent of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy stands. When he declined an invitation to Ukraine this month from President Volodymyr Zelensky, McCarthy said he did not need to travel to confirm he won't provide a blank check for anything.